All right, Dan, so here we are.
It's exciting to be here.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us why we're here and what we're really trying to create?
Well, we met while I was overseeing a gambling program at a rehab program in Culver City, and you came in as a problem gambler.
Yep.
And you were betting on sports a lot, losing, not surprisingly, on sports a lot, and feeling really down and dejected about your inability to stop gambling. And so we had a heart-to-heart. I remember over the phone. I'd have to do an intake over the phone, and you were in your car, I believe, and feeling pretty hopeless at that point. And I've worked with a lot of gamblers that have thought about suicide as a result of their losses, and feeling like the chasing cycle is just so overwhelming, they don't know what to do. And I could tell that you were not quite at that point, but you were feeling really, really low and you really needed help. And so I got you into the program. You decided not to go into the rehab, the inpatient program, but we worked in the intensive outpatient program and helped you with your gambling program, with stopping gambling. And it was really gratifying for me, and I've mentored you through your getting a master's degree in social work like me. So now here we are as colleagues.
Yeah, here we are.
Both social workers and both wanting to help people with gambling problems.
So I want to go back on how we met, sort of, and how I kind of reached out to this rehab. And so one thing I want to touch on is the lack of help for compulsive gamblers. Could you touch maybe on that?
Well, there's a lot of misunderstanding about gambling addiction versus substance use, and they are different animals, although the dopamine mechanism is largely the same. You get a rush when you're driving to the casino or grabbing your phone and beginning to think about betting on sports. Yes, dopamine is being released, but there's something unique about gambling. To me, a big part of it is the fact that gamblers can be addicted both to winning and the sick comfort of losing. And with losing, there's a sort of sense of purpose that kicks in right away, that you want to chase those losses. And so in a weird way, and I've said this in our therapy sessions, gambling becomes the solution that gambling created. And so getting out of that cycle of losing is really, really hard. Because it's a familiar feeling and you just want to stay in the action. And then there's also something very special and unique about how the phone or the slot machine can literally hypnotize or mesmerize you, so that the images that you're seeing, the motion of the slot machine, of the cherries, the jackpot signs, all of that stimulation becomes very powerfully addictive. So that when you're walking to the casino, approaching a slot machine, or going to Vegas where there are television screens everywhere, you're just feeling so damn good, you know? And you're not even drinking, you're not even smoking weed or using cocaine. It's a pure rush based on the stimulation of the anticipation of being in the action.
And so you talk about this whole hypnotizing thing, and I do know that there are sort of different type of gamblers, and I know this hypnotizing has to do with escaping some sort of thing. Could you touch on maybe the different type of gamblers and maybe the gamblers that are more into sports betting, what they're looking for?
Yeah, for sports betting, there's that sense of of motivation, enthusiasm, excitement with winning. And so a lot of people that are into sports betting are very competitive. They may have played sports themselves, and they have like a childlike love of sports. Like they loved the Lakers or the Warriors when they were kids, and that love of sports gets subverted into something that becomes kind of ugly and at some point even addictive. And so all of those childhood associations with how much you love sports then gets co-opted into this rush that you get on betting on sports. And so it can start off with, an innocent, in quotes, wager, and then escalate into something that's really quite insidious and serious, to the point where you're betting on the Memphis Grizzlies or teams that you don't even care about just to stay in the action.
Exactly.
But it's about a rush. It's about a competition. It's about, I did this, I have special knowledge, but I suppose that there are some people that can bet on sports and supposedly make money. I certainly don't see them in my therapy practice, and I'm very skeptical that many of them actually exist and win on a consistent level. What I have seen is that people that are competitive and driven by nature, athletic a lot of times, get hijacked into this world of sports betting that is so easy to do, and the debt accumulates so rapidly, and the situations can become so dire financially and emotionally.
And with the whole evolution of fantasy sports and things like that, and how you talk about how things start out as a love and then they eventually grow on and they can be an infatuation, the accessibility with fantasy sports and just having it at your fingertips, and even playing for just 25 cents, that can...
Yeah, daily fantasy can keep you in the action, and it's not just about winning 100 or 1,000 or losing 1,000. It's about the preoccupation. And so fantasy, you're figuring out the teams, you have a vested interest in how these games turn out, you get that satisfaction in the rush of being better, of winning, and that can be its own problem. Even if you're not losing a lot of money, you could be spending many hours during the course of a weekend or a week figuring out the teams that you have that you want to play, and then watching sports all day to the detriment of your relationships with other people, other hobbies, just being present in your life. So the problem that so many people have on their phone with daily fantasy and sports betting is that they're not really present. They're in the action and thinking about sports betting, daily fantasy, to the detriment of a lot of other areas.